actually nervous to be in front of a group. I was like, it's been a couple years, you know, it's been like 4 years. 3 years, right? And I was telling Jason this too, that I don't have COVID, but I have a natural cough because of the time of year it is. But I remember when COVID started, you remember you'd walk into a place and if you had a cough, like the place would scatter like cockroaches in the middle of the night and flip around. You know, it's like, so at least we're beyond that, right? So we can finally get back to doing some normal stuff. But this class is, first of all, I'm not like a tech guy. I don't know anything about ones and zeros and all that stuff. We have people that we hire outside our office for all that crap. But I do have a fascination with attempted fraud for some reason. And a lot of what this is because I tend to play along with fraud schemes when it comes to real estate closings. And some of you know this, and I've told you these stories, but we get multiple attempts at fraud, whether it's check fraud or wire fraud, just an email phishing or spoofing or things of that nature. On a monthly basis, we'll probably get 60 of them. Okay? I alone will get 5 emails a day that are something trying to get me to click on this link to enter my email password and all that stuff. Every once in a while I get these really good ones, which is way more than that, where I get to play along, and that's where someone's going to send me a check, right? I love collecting these checks. They're not worth anything, but I finally exceeded the number $2 million in big checks. I don't believe it, they're on my desk. And if you ask the question of, well, why haven't you turned this over to like the state police? I tried for years. I've been doing this for 10 years now. And I used to do it, but they did absolutely nothing. Because they don't have the person power to really investigate it, especially when there's no loss, there's no damage. When they find out you're playing along, basically I'm acting like a little bit of a sleuth on my own. They're not gonna, I'm not a victim, you see what I'm saying? So they don't pursue it. But anyhow, so that's why I'm teaching this, because I think it's fun. And I've played through these, and I can give you some red flags on what you can look at, okay? So, let me see if I can work this. Look at that. PowerPoint. Key data points on cybercrime. Okay. So this is in your little handout here, I've extrapolated a bunch of different things from different sources. But damages from cybercrime. I want to run through these points really quickly. Damages from cybercrime. The first point is the one that gets me the most amazed when I hear it. Standing alone would be the 3rd largest economy in the world behind the US and China. Think about that. Damages from cybercrime. Okay? 10.5 trillion estimated by 2025. Right now it's at about 8 trillion. $8 trillion a year in cybercrime damages. So what is that? We're not talking about real estate closings alone. We're talking about hacking into hospitals, hacking into power plants, all that kind of stuff. The amount of money it takes to fix it. And a lot of it's not extortion. In other words, the hackers aren't receiving money. A lot of times they want money. But a lot of times it's governments hacking other government stuff, including the US. By the way, you know who's the best hackers in the entire world? The United States Army. Crazy. They have a whole task force that's really good at it. Do you remember a couple years ago when the power plant along the East Coast was hacked and there was a ransom, and they paid the ransom, and then all of a sudden, about 2 weeks later, the U.S. Army Special Ops Group basically made it known that they got the money back and also zipped out, zeroed the accounts of the fraudsters. So it just took them that little bit of time basically to completely take all their money back plus more. So that's great for the Army, but we're all small individuals, okay? And I want to say this because I heard this a long time ago. It's very important. In our industry, okay, each and every one of us, the average sales price of a transaction in Berkeley County is what? $360. Okay, Jefferson County, it's what? More, right? It's a lot more money than any of us really want to lose, okay? So if we're dealing with the transaction and we make a mistake, we could be potentially liable for almost all of that money, or at least a large portion, or even a hefty portion of it, we are thinly capitalized small companies, including ours. Meaning we don't have a lot of assets, but we handle a lot of assets. We handle a whole lot of assets, and you guys do as well indirectly, because you handle information that has to do with how money is handled. Okay, so that's why it's important to understand this and how it affects us. Now, I'm going to skip through these pretty quick. If you have any children who are looking for jobs, look at these next 2 points. Spending is going to exceed 1.75 trillion from 2021 to 25, and there will be 3.5 million unfilled IT jobs, essentially cybersecurity jobs, not IT, but cybersecurity jobs this year. Okay, 3.5 million. More than, what is that? 1% of the population over that, right? We got about 330 million in the country. $265 billion by 2031. That's just ransomware alone, okay? Significant. This is the view from 30,000 feet. So let's start talking a little bit, drilling it down to start talking about how it affects us, right? So email fraud schemes, you got spoofing, phishing, and what's called business compromise. Spoofing and phishing are very similar. The big difference is that phishing is trying to direct you to go out to a site to enter information. Spoofing is a little more pretending to be someone to interact and then providing something directly. Spoofing would be more what we would see in our industry, where someone somehow gets into the email chain and pretends to be one of you guys and says, oh, the title company or the attorney has changed the wiring instructions. So they're pretending to be you. It's a spoof, right? And then they get the money directly someplace else, okay? Business email compromise is actually quite sophisticated. That's where they hack the back doors and get into the server, and basically they are operating your system clandestinely. In some of those situations, they can actually have software installed where they can email from your account, but when it returns, it goes to a different account. So you don't even know that the email's being sent out of yours. That's pretty sophisticated. But you see these first two most common, okay? Any questions so far?
Oh, it's 260 for Berkeley, 360 for Jefferson.
Still too much money to lose, right?
I was programmed on Jefferson.
Anybody want to write me a check for $260,000? I'll take it right now. Okay? All right. So how does this affect the real estate for us in real estate? I'm going to talk about two things here. Okay, fake foreign sellers, fake checks. I think pretty much go together. Okay. How many people in here have had somebody from, let's say, China reach out to you and say they want to buy a house in Berkeley County or Jefferson County? Anybody have that happen? Okay. Anybody in your office have that happen? More than likely, you've heard the story, if not. So, what I'm going to do is run you through some of the things that you need to look at for identifying keys to fraudulent email. So I'll call this the 5 S's. Have you seen these emails before? They can be convincing, they can be really bad. They can be not convincing, is what I'm trying to say. But you're going to find that, for the most part, they're going to contain syntax, spelling, and grammar errors. Okay? Almost as if English is their second language, or maybe third or fourth. Or maybe they're using some sort of translation device. It doesn't quite do it correctly. Okay? Vicky was just talking about ChatGPT. This will be a problem because they'll be able to fix this really quickly now with ChatGPT. It might not be correct in any way, shape, or form, but at least they'll get rid of the syntax, spelling, and grammar errors. Fast closing, speedy closing. They always want to close fast. Just time, not to use the legal phrase improperly, but time is of the essence. They want to do it fast. And there's a reason for that. They want the check to get deposited and then have the money returned before it's rejected. Okay? That's the key why they do it so fast. Okay? And you'll see that the pressure will build if you ever get into one of these. When the check is sent, and if I got a solution for you guys, John, I hate to recommend it, but I'll tell you later. But if you deposit that check into your broker account, they're gonna be on you so hard, multiple, 10 emails a day. We change our mind, get the money back, get the money back. Where's the money? Where's the slip? Where's the money? Show us the wiring, all that stuff. That's what they do constantly. So that's why they do the speedy closing. Silence on the phone. I had to come up with this S. That means they don't want to talk to you. Only want to communicate by email. Okay? Don't make up excuses all the time for this. The time difference, it costs me too much money. I don't speak English well. It's my second language, whatever the case may be. But they do not want to talk to you on the phone. This has actually changed slightly recently. They are starting to talk to us on the phone because they realize that to verify wiring instructions, you have to call someone. And those can be quite entertaining when you have them on the phone. Sympathy. They always pull at the heartstrings. Okay, they're going to have a family emergency of some sort. The first one that I played out on one of these was way back when Japan had the tsunami. No pun intended, we had a wave, literally, of these fraud attempts. And they were all about the tsunami. People moving from Japan to get away from being a nation that's surrounded by water because they wanted to move to Hedgesville. Wow, okay. I remember, this was the first one. You know Sandra Stotler used to be in So Sandra had one and another agent had one and I said, they're fake, but let me play them out. This is the first time I ever did this. And it was funny, it was the same person. He sent 2 checks, okay? And I don't have them because I turned them over. 2 checks, they had all the same account information. Exact same checks to me. To the same person. I'm like, this guy's not very smart. The check numbers were not even different. Okay, and what's the funny part was, it was Royal Bank of Canada. I called Royal Bank of Canada and said, I knew these are fake, but I'm just going to do my due diligence and verify. And I told the guy, he goes, well, I can't give you too much information, but give me some face information on the check. So I said, like what? He goes, give me the date. And he stops and starts laughing when I read the date. He goes, that's Canadian Independence Day. We're not open. I was like, wow, there you go. So they don't do their homework, is the point in that I'm trying to say there. You can find lots of issues. But sympathy is something they always do. They want to make you feel sorry for them. Okay? They'll talk about politics, how they're living in an oppressive country, or their kids have heart disease. They need to get to the United States where the healthcare is better. Okay? These are the stories that I've actually engaged in, right? But they're always cash. They're always going to be cash buyers. They're always going to say we're paying cash. Why do they need financing when they have fake money, right? It's monopoly. They're just, whatever they put on the check doesn't matter. So that's things that you should be looking for when you get one of these emails, okay? So some examples. Are you ready? The fake email. Read that real quickly and tell me if you see any problems with it.
That's a big old.
I don't know, it looks like my ex-husband. It's up to you.
No, the words are spelled right.
I mean, see, right off the get-go, you can see that the grammar's not very good. That's not a telltale sign. There's a lot of people who write poorly. Yeah, okay, so this, we already knew, by the way, at this point, that this was fake. It happened last summer. And it was funny, because this same guy, and I won't mention his name because he might happen to be involved, but I don't think he might be less, did this 3 times. 3 different agents.
Wow.
And we were in the closing attorney on all 3 of them. And I'm like, you're committing fraud. And I'm like, he goes on the second one. I'm like, let's just see how far this idiot will go. So I play along with the second one. And I'm like, I already told this guy he's committing fraud, and he still thinks that I'm going, all right, not that smart. But by the 3rd one, he didn't engage. He figured it out by then. But that's the first email we get, right? Thanks for your respond. Please, I would like any payment that I want to go to blah, 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 blah. But here's follow-up, further email discussions. So this is after I'm interacting with them. Thanks for the update. The deposit is to be used for your retainer charge. real estate attorneys don't use retainers. We get paid at the closing, right? It's a misunderstanding of the process, right? Required earnest money deposit down payment for the purchase of the real estate. Okay, kindly deposit it and send me a scanned copy of the deposit slip from my records once the check has been deposited. And on the process of applying for my family visa now, so we will see you soon. Kind regards. Okay, so what are some red flags in this town? I'll tell you right there too. See that word kindly? There was a study done on fraudulent emails, and one word pops up more than any other, and it's the word kindly or kind.
Oh, man.
It's a cultural thing. Okay? It's purely a cultural thing. In the United States, we say please. And that's not informal, that's appropriate. But formal British taught English recommends kindly. So most of these people are learning their language as a second language in a school system. So kindly is what they use. Nobody I know says kindly do anything, right? So if you see kindly, which is funny, I'm cooking a fraud, one of these scams right now. So I'm gonna see if I can get this to play. You ready?
Can I ask you,
I'm changing my email salutation.
So this is another one I'm working on right now. Someone's claiming that they're gonna be leasing underground drilling equipment to somebody in West Virginia. So, no, it's not happening. I called the company, it's a real company, which is really kind of interesting. And I was like, you guys have a contract with this? And they're like, no, it's fraud. I was like, perfect, I won't treat it seriously then. But here, listen to the word. This came in this morning.
Hello, Christopher. Good morning. It's Teresa from Atlas Exploration. Kindly check your email and get back to me via email, okay? I've been expecting your response. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
He's already sent me the wiring instructions, right? And I'm not sending the money back. And so he's getting a little worried because it's been a couple days. And I've told him, this is why I'm glad Eric's not here. I send him fake deposit slips that I create to make him feel like that I really deposited this stuff. Because I want him to see it. I can't share this with you because there's some other things that I do, like using fake names, which you'll see. And they don't pick up on that. But he's in a panic mode, so all day I'll be getting emails and probably him calling my cell phone. Because where's the money? Where's the money? It needs to be fast, right? So anyways, you ready? Fake bank statement. Now this came along with the contract. Right there it is. Now at first blush, you're going, oh, it looks like a bank statement. Right? Except it's the BEA, Bank of East Asia. And if you look at the PDF on this when it comes through, it's very obviously a layered PDF. So that you can actually extrapolate on a document like that the logos and stuff are plopped on there along with the name. So it's an altered PDF. What this idiot didn't do was his math correctly. Down here, this $60,000 money out takes the 1.5 million account to 6.4 million. That's like a monopoly banking your error all the time, right? And then here's the deposit. So you mess this up. And then strangely down here, the 6.6 becomes 8.6. Okay, so this is fun. My wife plays along with this stuff with me, and she's laughing. She's like, this bank statement just looks totally fake. I said, I bet the math's wrong. And we both went, she's like, oh my gosh, it is. Well, bottom line is, no, really. All this stuff is completely different. But on top of it, the account name is MAS Global Trading, but it's made out of Mr. Abel Wong. Okay? This stuff just doesn't look right. And why is there a signature? Is this the verification from the bank that it's legitimate? Yes. Okay? So, point is, look at this stuff. Critical eye. Okay? Do some math. Sometimes you'll find some interesting stuff. I had one of these fraud attempts where they said that they weren't paid.
okay, Matthew doesn't.
Not Doogie calling me. He's probably mad about that $1,000 bottle. It's not true. Found out it wasn't worth that much. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were there.
We don't like that.
sue this company because the company in Morgantown hadn't paid them for all these materials. It looks official. I mean, it's like 50 pages of communications, invoices, except when you start looking at what the materials are. There was $1.1 million in shower heads bought by this company. Who in the world would buy $1.1 million in shower heads? How many houses would that be? That's a lot. Right. So, anyways, always take a critical eye to that. Now, here you go. And the check. You ready? Big reveal. There it is. Now, let me give you a little background. The contract was for $199,000. Why is this guy sending me $247,000?
You pay me the overage right away.
Exactly. He's not looking to get all $247,000 back. Is what this is a layered fraud attempt. He said, no, you keep the purchase price amount, but go ahead and send me the difference back. Then he disappears, and he probably ends up with $40,000 in my money. Okay. So what are some red flags you see on this thing? I'm gonna show you. Oh, this is I thought was ironic. I just stuck this in here. But that's the slip where the guy sent it from, right? So purely, that's I guess it's like FedEx in Canada or something like that. This address is the unemployment office outside Toronto. I had one of them send me
What is it? I'm sorry.
the unemployment office.
Ah, okay.
Right? It's called the Queensway Employment. It's basically where people go to get checks if they're unemployed, which I thought was ironic because it's a scammer. But I've had them send me checks from a FedEx and a Tim Hortons up in Canada. That's where a lot of times they come from is Canada. And that one, I won't tell you the story, but that one I played off because I named my assistant Tim Horton, and Tim Horton talked to the fraudster. But anyways, other examples. I want you to look at this and spot the issues, okay? Now, with this check, okay, Miller Waste, I'm gonna give you this hint. Miller Waste Systems is not part of the transaction. Okay?
And it's Topher.
Topher.
Isn't that Topher somebody? And you're not.
Okay, so what would catch your eye first of all if you were a broker or someone and you got this check, you're an agent, you get this check and you give it to your broker. First of all, who the heck is Miller Waste Systems, right? That's their Apple Valley Waste up there, is what it is in this Markham, Ontario. It had nothing to do with the transaction. That might actually be a real actual check from an account. In other words, it's the stock, okay? Bank of Montreal, is that a red flag? Yeah. Okay, why they send it to you, Bank of Montreal? Here's another thing, I'm gonna go ahead and, the law office of Topher Luttrell, that's my alias, that's what I use when I deal with these people. I get my Topher. My son calls me Topher. So I got the law office of Topher Luttrell, which you cannot ever repeat because the state bar will strongly frown upon my activities. But it's for educational purposes, but.
US funds.
I'm gonna say the account, the check number of the account.
They're wrong. They didn't get that. They didn't do their homework very well on this one.
Well, the date, it has MMDDYYY, and then the actual date above it, that's, they don't,
It's weird. It
you
is.
don't do that.
And this is different font. Can't really tell on here, but this definitely put on there. That's the bank or the bank location number. And they usually get this right. So this is going to be like ABA routing information, right? So the ABA number is really easy to find. You can find any bank's ABA number on the internet. So you can create a fake check really easily. Okay. But the check numbers don't even match. They didn't even do it right. Okay? Here's another example for you. Hint. Check was received October 25th.
Okay.
And I told him to spell out the LC. Pretty cool.
It's a formal way.
just because this is some stuff that we do in our office, and we'll keep going after this stuff, but, on this one, obviously the date, obviously the name, there is not a Wells Fargo location in West Virginia. Okay? That, actually my wife picked up on that right away, she's like, there's not a Wells Fargo in West Virginia. It's like, yeah, well, we know it's fake already, but, so, because we use this training through the staff, you know, because you could get a real estate closing, everything could look legitimate, you get something like this, you wouldn't pick up on it. These look just like real checks. Same weight, same paper, you can get check stock at Office Max, or, you know, wherever. But, you see those issues, right? So let's talk about what are some best practices other than going and becoming a teacher, right? That's probably the best solution for all of us in this industry. Any questions on that stuff so far? One thing I want to point out, you only,
Sorry. Could you just block the phone numbers? Like, what if you go so far and then realize it's fraud and they are harassing you, calling you?
they'll leave you alone. You mean like if they keep trying to call you? Once you tell them you know it's fraud, they stop. That's the end of it. They don't. Because at that point the gig's up, they're done, they're gonna move on to somebody else. At least that's been my experience with them. And I've tried to call them back over, they won't answer the phone. Is this helpful to you so far?
Yes.
You wanna hear a funny story? It had nothing to do with real estate closing, it had to do with lease purchase, okay? So this is where they're gonna be leasing equipment to somebody. That somebody's the Mon General Hospital. And it's like these types of heart monitoring devices. And it's a lease purchase. And the price on the lease purchase is more than the equipment is. Brand new. It's used equipment that they're selling apparently to Mon General Hospital for more money than it sells for brand new. Which is kind of, okay, that's a weird flag. So this is one where I got this guy's name's Robert Kubiak, very British sounding. He's the agent who is trying to get me to work as the escrow agent, attorney for the seller, to have the money come in so that I can pay the seller, okay? And to show you the desperation that they go through. My wife and I were on our 25th anniversary for just a dinner, and I get the phone call. And I'm like, Karen, it's a fraudster. So I'm gonna take this call. So I'm saying, I need to verify the wiring instructions. So I tell them, look, at this point, I can't talk to you about the run out of cell phone service. I want to put the pressure on, right, to make them get a little antsy. I'm not gonna deposit the check till I get back to the office in a couple of days. I said, but I'm gonna call you like in 2 days, okay? So I was happy with that, because he knows they haven't deposited the check. Because once I deposit the check, the clock starts running. Remember, the bank's gonna determine this is a fake check, and then they're gonna stop everything, and the money's not gonna go out. They need to do this within 24 hours. So when we get done, we're driving back home, I notice he's called me. It's like an 818 number with a plus in front of it. Plus like 4 or something. I'm like, I look at him like, this is like Poland. This guy's calling me from Poland, he's a Polish number. So my wife, being who she is, decides, she says, you should just make him do crazy stuff like to verify the wiring instructions. So I'm like, what do you mean? Ask him to verify the color of his belt or his shoes. Just ask him crazy stuff. Right? So, okay, so I get him on the phone and I said, look, I got your wiring instructions, but I need you to answer some crazy questions. It's called the 2-part personal effect authentication system. It's been adopted by the SEC now, we have 5. And she's cracking up laughing. She's almost blowing the cover. We're driving down the road. And he's like, okay. I said, I'm gonna ask you a question about an item of clothing. And you have to answer it. I'm gonna call you back and you're gonna have to answer it again. Then you're gonna have to email me a picture. So I said, what color are your shoes? He said, my shoes are black. I said, good enough, Robert, I'll call you back. 20 minutes, you better be ready. So I call back and I go, all right, Norbert, what is the secret code? And he goes, my shoes are black. I said, you got it. I said, now, you need to email me a picture of the shoes. And he did. It was a stock picture of black shoes, but it still was a trouble. So then I said, all right, let's build this pressure up. So I get back in, he's like, okay, tell me when you deposited the check. I know you have it because A. Bacon signed for it. Let's do FedEx. That's Angie Bacon. She does work at the office. So I said, oh yeah, that's my assistant, A. Kevin Bacon. I'm gonna let Kevin take over from here. So I created another fake Gmail account. A. Kevin Bacon at Gmail. And then Kevin communicates with this guy for 3 days, but only uses movie titles or TV shows that Kevin Bacon was in. Such as We Can't Be Footloose on dealing with other people's money. Right? It goes on and on and on. And the guy never balks at any of it for several days. Never. And then the end of the scheme was, we accidentally wired the money to someone else because it got intercepted and we sent it to somebody else. So we just jokingly, my fake character, Kevin, accidentally wired it to another person who acted like they were Norbert and stole his money. Nobody lost any money. You see what I'm saying? This is not fake. But he hung on to the very end. Like, it was the craziest thing ever. I got 37 Kevin Bacon movie and TV show references into those emails. 37 of them. I can't share it with you. But anyways, that's how desperate they are once they think the check is deposited. So anyhow, let's talk about what you should do. I think the number one thing that people overlook and should never overlook is two-part authentication. I put in this little handout here what the National Association of Realtors tells you to do. And that's taken directly from their website, because I don't want to overstep and say what they say is wrong. They have great advice in there. And they do recommend two-part authentication. But two-part authentication, you know how that works, right? So if you're sitting at your desktop and you log in for one time, if you leave yourself logged in, it'll typically just leave you logged in. You're not going to have to do the two-part every single time. You can set your settings up like that so that every day you have to do a two-part. But the two-part is not just your password or your login password, but also a text message with a code. Or an email to another account, which is not a good idea, by the way. It should be a text message. It's really hard to mess with. Or a phone call. Like Microsoft will call you and give you the passcode. But you should have that on all of your email. And the reason is, how many people in here use Microsoft 365 or Office, anything like that? There's a way, and you'll be surprised at this, there's a way that you can get onto the internet, like the internet, not the desktop, but the internet. You can look at your recent activity, and I guarantee that every one of you will have a recent hit in the last 30 days of someone trying to hack your account. It'll show it, unsuccessful. And it'll be someplace like Hungary, Russia, places like that. They're just trying to get into your email, okay? But it's also a good way that you can see if someone has gotten into your email, okay? But there's a way you can look at that. You just Google it, say, look up recent activity, and it'll show you the location of where they were at with their IP address and everything. But two-part authentication is very important. Obviously, use complicated passwords. I know that everybody says that, nobody does that. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I have come up with some complicated ones, but I always forget them. So there's this thing called the password manager where you can keep it locked and have a way. I use a very old school approach. I have them written down on a piece of paper in my office in my desk room. Because they're not going to get that. You see what I'm saying? That's not electronic. That's how I keep track of it. Those are two things I think are most important. Also, for anybody in here, if you're using Yahoo, okay, or Gmail anymore, I used to say Gmail was pretty good. Any sort of free platform email, it's not got the greatest reputation for security, okay? If your company has its email, I hate to say this for all you guys who are owners, somebody in here, you should have that set up. But you should also have an IT person that's backing you up to make sure that it's done correctly. For the agents, brokers, and owners don't want to hear this, that protects you. Because then you're not using some renegade email, you're using your company email, okay? And the E&O will probably be a little bit stronger if you're using that email on a hack. Also, for people who own companies, you should make sure you have cyber fraud coverage added, because that's the one thing that can knock a business out faster than anything. But that is basically my thoughts on it. Other things, let me see here, what else I want to say. If you do get hit, you don't sit, okay? You have to react immediately. Because the window of actually recovering the funds is less than 24 hours. Now, when the FBI is involved, they'll tell you on their website that they're successful 85% of the time of recovering funds. But the key is getting them to actually try to do something. You know, there was a rule in place because there's so much of this unwritten rule that unless there's an aggregate number of over $1 million on wire frauds, they don't have the power to do anything about it. They feel like that becomes more civil. It's up to your or our or our pocketbooks to take care of it. When it gets over $1 million, they get interested and they try to do something about it. But usually it's gone. It's gone, so you have to react quickly. The other thing is, don't keep it to yourself, okay? I know that's embarrassing. Everybody's embarrassed. This is the other thing. Do you know how much email compromise is reported according to the IRS, or the FBI? 12 to 15%. The reason being, it's embarrassment, right? Like if we got hit with a wire fraud, probably gonna find a way to see if my insurance is gonna cover it. Keep quiet, take care of it. You see what I'm saying? Because it's business, it affects your business. But as hard as it is to say this, it's best to talk about it. Because if they're targeting your office, or somebody in your office, or you, they're also targeting other people in the community. They don't typically just focus on one person. Like I said, last summer we had 3 contracts from one guy who was targeting agents from different offices. Okay? I feel like I talked a lot. It's only 12:30 though. You guys have any questions? So, a quick quiz. Don't blurt it out. I'm gonna count to 3 and I want you all to say it. What's the #1 key word in an email that you see should trigger you that you may be looking at a fraudulent email? On the count of 3, what is it? 1, 2, 3.
Hi.
Yes. It's the craziest giveaway. You guys have any other questions? Yeah, Vicki.
Recently, in the last 3 weeks, I've gotten 3 different notices. An email came through, but they only wanted to connect through WhatsApp.
Yes, that's a new thing for you guys,
Yeah.
WhatsApp.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about WhatsApp. But somebody in your office had, was it Sarah Caffarelli? I can't remember, but Sarah. Yeah. But yeah, I saw that it came through their office too. I don't know enough about that one. I need to play that
That's
one.
probably the best response. I don't know enough about it.
Yeah, I just respond, what's up?
I used to be an IT project manager, and we use WhatsApp with our developers and other vendors.
Yeah.
It's easier, a platform to communicate with them from them. You can text and call and share information through WhatsApp.
So it's like GroupMe or something like that, where you're not using straight text, but it's internet-based communication through an app.
Yes.
Gotcha.
I talk to people on WhatsApp because it's used very much in India and all over the world. and it's free conversation. And I felt somehow somebody may have got my email address to come through.
Could be.
No,
Could
I've
be.
gotten them, Vicky. And
Yeah,
I-
you've got 'em too.
I've gotten them.
I've been getting a lot of these recently. Susan, where are you selling properties? Or, but they're all text
Yeah.
messages.
Yeah.
And then I got one that was, a text, I was looking for it, but I can't find it, and it was like, said a realtor, they're looking for a realtor and said like the wrong name. And I played along with it for a few minutes, but.
Yeah, it's, usually there's no harm in playing along with it, as
Yeah.
long as you're not revealing any information,
Yeah,
right? And that's more or less what I do. But yeah, it's gonna evolve. It's gonna constantly evolve. Like, the more and more technology that comes about, email probably will phase down, because these scams have been around forever. As long as email, you know? Very first, wire fraud through the internet, when do you think it was?
The day the internet became public.
1994, $1 million wire fraud. 1994. So how many people had the internet in 94? I was still in high school. I didn't have a computer. Hardly had a television.
I will say that, I did get an email once from my credit card company, and I've been getting, these bank ones, and I was just like, whatever, and then I thought, didn't ask me to click on something, it did ask me to call. So I did call my credit card company and went through, the thing, and the guy finally gets on the phone and goes, have you been buying tires in Canada? And somebody bought like $6,000 worth of tires on our credit card.
I think that's 2 points I want to bring to that. The call, okay, that's another rule I put in here, is that you use your minutes, not your data, okay? Use your minutes, not your data, which means don't email, call. Get them on the phone, get the person on the phone. That usually will ferret out about 90% of the problems, okay? And the 10% will talk to you, probably will figure out they're lying to you as well, right? It doesn't take too much, but, so the calling, if you see that, probably a good indication might be legitimate. I had Amex one time, same thing, called me on Sunday morning, they said, they're like, fraud department, we're calling, we have a question, were you in Chesapeake, Virginia yesterday? I was like, no, I was in Spring Hills at a soccer game with my son. They're like, well, this is the funniest thing, I said, well, there was a TV purchase, it was a big screen TV. I said, that wasn't me, let's go through some other charges. I'm like, TV, I could buy a TV, it was like it was like November, right? Could be for Christmas, how'd that get them notified? What about 10 bottles of the same perfume? I was like, that didn't trigger you off, but the TV did. 10 bottles of the same thing. It's like either he's got a wife and 9. It's like, he's obviously just selling it on eBay, right? But yeah, I went through the list and he purchased like 4 things. And it was all in mass quantities after that, but it was smaller, not mass, but like 3 pocketbooks, and like 2 wallets, and 10 bottles of perfume. Perfume. But yeah,
Anything that asks you to click on a link, if it's an email, a text message, a Facebook message, if it's asking you to click on a link. I've gotten Facebook things from people that I'm friends with that say,
Yeah.
hey, I found this video of you, click here and get it.
yes, that's,
Those
Yeah,
are
those are
automatic
good
triggers.
links.
If you see an email, or like if you get an email from Chris that says, hey, I need you to update your information, click on this link to do it, and you're not expecting that from Chris, then don't click on it. Delete it and report it as spam and call Chris and let him know.
yeah, so in my office, you can go, there's a website. I don't recommend you do this because it could be almost illegal, depending on the purpose. But it's called like dead fake or anonymous email. So you go to these websites, okay, and you type in the basically your email address. No, it's not your really on my email address, right? And then you put where it's gonna go, and then you can type out the email, put links in it, all kinds of stuff, right? Click send, you get a little verification code on the website, and it goes to the person. And so I've done this in my office where I test the staff. So I'll get on there and I'll make an email from me to them, be like new closing. I make it always look like a fraud too. Nothing specific. That's the other thing you always see. It'll be like new closing documents, right? Or something goofy like vague. and it'll say click here. And you just know that's not real. So I did this just 3 days, no, yes, what's today, Wednesday, so Monday. I sent it to Lindsay, Angie, and Tessa in the office.
Oh, no, Kevin?
Okay, you fired Kevin. Lindsay and Angie passed, flying colors. Tessa clicked on it. And so it takes you to a website that I've set up that says, congratulations, you have just failed the electoral LC. Don't click on shit. Rick, I sent it to Rick so he could see how it works. I didn't click it either, did I? He didn't click it. He showed up because I didn't click it. I only clicked it first. He's like, you didn't fail.
I have like alerts set up on my credit cards so that if I get to a specific amount in like a 30-day time period, I'll get a text message that says you've reached your limit.
Yeah.
So at least then I go, well, wait a minute, I've used that card this month.
Right.
So then at least that way there's a way to
You're
say,
getting
wait a minute.
notified. This doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird if it gets the credit card companies. It gets their attention. Like I can spend money on the credit union on vacation, they don't care. But like I went, last time we bought our dog, which was 2000, she's 11. So what is it, 2012, 13? We show up at the breeder and we're like, pull out a check and they're like, we don't take checks. I'm like, I got a credit card? And they're like, we'll take credit card. Like, it's only a firm credit card. I'm not firm, so I'm not doing anything illegal. I'm treated as complete distributions, don't worry.
We're not on it's about commission, so
No,
you're
it's like,
okay.
whatever. So, scan the card, next thing you know, fraud alert. Because I'm buying a dog, it's like, okay, well, that's good. But if you ever want, Maggie, she's 11 years old, she's owned by Lux Royals. She's an asset, she's not an asset.
My credit cards, you can have them ping you. I'm insane about my credit. So every time I use it, I get a text message it's been used on my major credit cards. But some, I went and bought, when I bought my phone and my Apple Watch, they declined it due to fraud. I bought it right here in Martinsburg. But every time that any of my major credit cards are used, like when I pump gas, I get a text message.
Yeah, it's weird with triggers. Let me add a couple other things. Okay, that's the best practices when it comes to wire fraud, check fraud, all this other stuff. Don't handle wiring instructions. It's not your job. You don't want to be part of that. Okay, don't handle that. Okay. And the other thing too is that they find studies with regard to the timing of the fraud attempts, typically right around 3-day weekends or vacation days. They're trying to get it on that Friday. They're aiming for that Friday. You know why? Banks are closed longer, right? So they got more of a window. So you'll often, like sometimes I've sent it out on Facebook. We'll say, be careful this weekend, do your fraud time. They're probably looking on Friday and try to get you, right? So be careful in that. Lastly is something else I'll put in there too, is just trust your instincts, okay? If someone's too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true. So I remember years ago, it's not in this room, so I'm gonna use this example. Agent came to me and said, I've got a bunch of Chinese buyers and they wanna buy farmland in Jefferson County. Why? Because all the ships, we have such a trade deficit. The ships are coming to the U.S., but they're flooding back and there's nothing on them. So they're going to grow stuff here and ship it back to China because they don't have enough farms. Like, it's 99% farms in China. Like, you see the pictures of the big cities, but 99% of that place is farms, right? I was like, I don't think this is legitimate. It wasn't. Obviously wasn't. But the story just didn't sound right? So he backed off of it quickly. I was like, I don't say the name. He agreed. He's like, yeah, probably doesn't sound right. So what do we do? It's like, we do nothing. The other question I had, I'll get to Brittany in a second, is what if you have a contract signed by a fraudster, okay? And they disappear because they've been ratted out. Do you need a release of the contract? No. They don't exist. There's not a real party to the contract. They're not real. So, fraud in the inducement voids the contract, just remember that. You don't need a release if you're gonna have this situation.
I read a thing, I'm sorry,
No, go ahead.
I read a thing in the paper a couple weeks ago about, legislators had banned certain entities and countries from buying foreclosure properties.
I didn't see that.
I read it in the papers.
I wonder what that was about.
Probably foreign investment.
It's a new bill that is gonna be introduced or was introduced to prohibit, what was the exact word they call it? Anyway,
Foreign Investment Real
Yeah.
Estate Act is
Yeah.
probably gonna be where they'll bury that thing into it.
yeah.
They do that, they have already some rules on it. There's really no prohibitions on buying land here for people who are foreign, so. I'm surprised at that. Most countries have that. Like, it's, you know, we're one of the few that doesn't. We don't stop investment. Brittany, you had your hand up, sorry.
Yeah, I'm just curious about your perspective. I've taken a few trainings in the past about handling checks, like EMV checks,
Yeah, that's what I was
and
saying.
retaining full copies and then emailing them. And I'm curious your perspective on that, because I don't keep them, and if I do, I redact the account information off of them.
Yeah,
And I just note, like, if we receive them, I just note, like, what it was that we received, like, check number from who, and I don't keep a full copy because I've been advised not to, but then colleagues requesting copies of them, puts us in a,
falls into what's called NPI, non-public information protection. So the account numbers you could redact that. You should redact that, that's best practices. I'll tell you the solution. You know what the solution is, and I hate to say it. You wanna get away from having to deal with check fraud, in large part, don't take EMDs. You've already pretty much put the burden on the attorneys to do it. So just keep going.
Thank you.
Just do it. Okay, just do it. So, and
it's not
everybody's got.
necessarily for when we receive them, it's usually for us, it's when I'm receiving it from other people. Like, I didn't want it, but they
Yeah.
sent it to me anyway, and I was like, I don't want it, please stop.
Yeah, you don't want that information.
Stop emailing me, copy the check.
Yeah, that's your solution. I hate to say that. It's just don't take these. I've always been a strong proponent of no earnest money deposits. I hate them. And I think they tie up property. Now, I get that during the last year or so of COVID, they were a necessity. That's how you show that I got the purchasing power. I'm ready, you know. Or new construction where builder's gonna be doing a bunch of upgrades that are not gonna add value to the property. You put that as an EMD, right? But yeah, that's, if you've got a pretty standard house, normal buyer, normal seller, I hate EMDs. I don't think, what's $500 to $1,000 really do? It doesn't compensate the seller if the buyer walks. It doesn't hurt the buyer that much. And the buyers can be real jackasses and not sign a release, and you got a problem on your contract moving forward because of people fighting over beans that could screw up a property. That's just always been my position on that. Because it's, you don't want to, I hate to use language, but you want a pissing match over $500 in a market like this, you know?
I did have one that went to unclaimed, from Long Foster, to go to unclaimed property in West Virginia because the buyer and seller wouldn't sign off at $500. It was 7 years, Long Foster held the money, and then it, you know.
So this is an important couple thing. I've helped a couple people shut down real estate companies, like if they merge with someone else or do something. And their biggest issue is dealing with earnest money deposits. They'll have like 5 to 10 or 15. If anybody sign off on it, it's earnest money deposits, right? There's an actual, pretty certain this is legal. On an earnest money deposit, or unclaimed money after a certain period of time, you can start to charge a holding charge. And time it so that it'll eat up the whole thing by a period of like 10 years. Lawyers are starting to do that because we get, in our escrow accounts, oh my gosh, send me $1 checks, I never get cash, right? It's almost an incentive for me to say, I'm gonna give you back $20 of attorney's fees, so it's now $21, cause you will cash that. So you will not cash $1. Because then we have to reissue it, and it's like mailing a check for $1, postage is almost more, all this other stuff, but there's a movement that on these, once issued, a check after like year 2, you start to have a charge levied against it, so that it will basically eat it up by a 10-year period. Talk to an attorney about that. Don't take my word for it.
Well, you know, most of us in the room were probably trained by Marky Bartles. And, you know, the WWMD philosophy, if you didn't give earnest money, then you weren't sincere in your offer. That was a long time ago.
Yeah, but it's,
You know, but now I don't fill that out, you know, because unless the buyer says, oh yeah, how much money do I need? I just say no, and none, until it comes back and they say, oh, we have to have $500.
yeah. It's, I mean, on that point, I used to teach the class on contract formation, and I always get back to the first year of law school. We had this law professor, his name was Uncas McDania. He was kind of a hillbilly genius because he was a McDowell County resident, but he went to Harvard, Columbia, and Yale. Like, this guy was, but he would always say, in his southern West Virginia voice, mere peppercorn is all you need for consideration of contract. That was a peppercorn. I remember, it's that when you had sub day, remember in elementary school? Sub day was number 2 behind pizza day. Pizza day was the best. Sub day was number 2. But you bite into that sub and you have that little black thing. It's peppercorn. So the point is, practically nothing is consideration. It doesn't need to be $500, doesn't need to be $1. And you're taking the property off the market and writing the contract is sufficient. Yeah, anything. Yeah.
Just thinking outside of the box, what if you had a thing with your closing every time, if there were a less than $5, would you want to donate it to a charity, and you would just write it up and then just put it all to one piece?
I could probably do that. But I'm not going to. We cut it right back. We do everything at the table now. So it's like everybody's walking out with everything, including the overage on the recording. That's where they have those $1 checks, or $3, $5, whatever. And it's gotten a little better, but I'm gonna tell you, you all don't know this. There are times where I see a $1 check, and that buyer gets a $21 check because it's incentive for them to cash it. And I just take it off the attorney's fee. So take $20 off, put it on that check, so we don't have that damn thing hanging out there on the reconciliation for the next 6 years.
The only thing about not having a legal tender on the contract is that in principal's class, on pre-licensing, there's still, it's still in the principal's book, you know, where we're teaching it. So, you know, it's hard to say, okay, this is what you need to do, and then turn around and get licensed, and oh, well, we don't really do that. Yeah, so, I mean, you know, somewhere, somebody's gotta get their stories together so that we're not, you know.
Yeah,
The real estate commission needs to get their story.
yeah, it's, I don't know how to fix that. It's not gonna take that much, anything like that, but it's not required. Jen, let me get Rick and I'll get you.
When would it, like the amount of the EMD, if you take $10,000 or more
Yeah.
for an EMD, why is that not advisable?
Well, it can be. Like, and I say it's advisable in a situation, and I use new construction as a good example. Because a lot of people want a not fully customized house, but sort of customized house. You know what I'm saying? So they come in and they say, here's the plans, but you know what, I wanna upgrade this, and I wanna upgrade that, and upgrade this and do this and that. None of those things they're finishes. They're not gonna add any value to that piece of property, right? So the builder, I'm sure Dan Ryan operates this way, where a lot of extras are required to be included in like the deposit. I know we work with a builder that does this. Basically want enough money that's gonna cover that extra stuff, because the person walks, they're not gonna get the money back. You see what I'm saying? So that makes sense in that type of situation. And that's defensible because there's a reason. But if you just take a $200,000 house, and you take a $20,000 earnest money deposit, and if your seller thinks that they're gonna keep it because the buyer walked for no reason whatsoever, that's probably not gonna happen. The standard is anything in excess of like 70% is considered unconscionable, so it wouldn't hold up. That's why I always say, I just don't like it because I'm lazy, it's not pragmatic.
How about with magistrate court versus circuit court?
Well, if you're over $7,500, you can't go to magistrate, I think it's, let me see, 10,000.
10,000,
10,000, so if you're over 10, you gotta go to circuit court,
which costs more money than magistrate.
which you usually have to have an attorney in circuit court. Yeah, because, and it takes 12 to 18 months. Litigation's I still do it and it's fun, but it's an absolute waste of time for most clients. If you think that you're gonna get any sort of quick resolution, you're in the wrong game. Especially since COVID. COVID was an excuse to take everything. I got a lawsuit that was filed against my clients in 2015. Still can't get this thing worked out. It's been to the Supreme Court twice. It's like, at this point, everyone's like, we're just going to trial. But the judge won't set it for trial because there's this thing called the 700-day rule. It says that once it's originally filed, the thing has to go to trial within 700 days of the initial filing. But if it's appealed, the rules are off. It can take 20 years. So we're thrown into this purgatory of nowhere forever. That's too much about me. But that's a good example. It just takes forever. You guys have any other comments, questions, anything like that? Jody, I'm sorry.
That's okay. This is not about EMPs, it's about the email scams. One of the things that you'll see also is you'll get an email from somebody like your broker saying, hey, I'm in a meeting right now, I forgot to deposit this money.
Yes,
Can you go put this money in for me?
Yeah. Yeah, I get emails from myself all the time. It's really fun. It'll say, like, the one you see a lot now, is it'll be from me, to me, and it'll be like, phone message, click here, and if you click on it, it's just trying to get your login information. Right. There's some of them, that's not what I try to talk about. There's some of them that are really inappropriate. I mean, you guys got the stomach for it to tell you no bad story, right?
Yeah, I don't know from your phone number.
So this is awesome. I didn't create this, but Angie in the office, Angie Baker in the office, she calls me and she goes, I just got a crazy email, right? And I said, what is she? It's a fraud attempt. And I said, well, what does it say? She goes, it says that it was able to hack my computer, right? And see that I was looking at pornography and then videotaping me. She goes, what am I supposed to do? I said, well, Angie, let's start with this.
Slow down.
Looking at pornography. No! I said, secondly, you don't have a camera on your computer. This is fraud. You don't have a camera. It's not possible. I got the same one on Sunday. I was laughing at it. It's the exact same. It's in 3 languages now: English, German, and Spanish. You can get this fake email. And basically, it's to pay them in Bitcoin. They want like $1,000 in Bitcoin for extorting money out of you. They say we won't release this to damage your business reputation.
Well, I read a story recently, and this is horrible, and I'm so sorry to say it, but there was a teenager that got that email
Yes.
and killed himself.
Yes. It's terrible. Yeah. My wife was telling me about it. We're kind of going through this stuff, and she's like, yeah, it's awful. Yeah. The internet sucks. It's terrible. Social media is awful.
I try to
Start with something and get rid of all of it. That'd be fantastic. That's something that's come back.
I know.
I wouldn't be on it if I didn't have to use it.
Now let's take a survey. How many people would be on Facebook if they weren't in this industry?
Well, because my filtered photos look really pretty. My filtered
How many people would be on Facebook if they weren't in the industry? So, you know what I found to have one purpose and I like about it, is it reminds me of stuff years later. So I'm like, oh, that's cool. But then I just also discovered that I can put my stuff on there and nobody can see it, so only I see it in 5 years. So I've started doing that. You won't see, and by the way, how don't really like mowing grass that much. Everybody seems to think I love my
Yeah, you
yard.
shouldn't have such a big yard.
But the key is, I don't want anybody to know anything about me from Facebook. They don't, like, you guys know me well enough. Like, that's so vanilla. If someone looked me up, they're gonna be like, this guy's in the model railroading and mowing grass. Yeah, it's like, no pictures of my kids, hardly any of my wife. Yeah, I never finished that thing. I had to pay someone to do it. That's the truth.
Can you do me a favor? Can you just, tell my husband that I showed him your yard and now he's trying to keep up with it with our yard, so don't let him know.
No, it's, well, yeah, it started, what, 3 years ago? The guy we knew, we decided we're gonna all seed our yards, and from there it became like twice a week. It's like twice a week with mowing grass. I've listened to so many podcasts about true crime stuff. I've literally listened to every Dateline. I don't even like it.
You ever think of it from a real estate perspective now, like, I'm like, damn, I don't see that house. Like, they're gonna have to, that's gonna be a disclosure.
What's that?
The Dateline, do you ever look at it from a real estate perspective now? Yeah, that's a beautiful lake house, and we have to die in.
It's always the same every time, life insurance. There's life insurance policies.
Is everybody just waiting for one?